Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry is the culty church that I joined out in Redding, California, and this is the story of how my time in Redding all came crashing down. A quick refresher of what you need to know. In first year, I had a situationship with this guy from Norway. I was madly in love with him. He had a lot of reasons why he thought that we wouldn't work out long term. The reason being he had a chronic illness and he would never be able to prove to the Norwegian government that he could take me to Norway because he had a hard time holding down a job. But we deeply cared for each other and we had fooled around and we got in a lot of trouble for that, and I ended up having to get counseling before first and second year. In between that summer, I got very suicidal. I developed an eating disorder. I felt like I was a very horrible person, and I was also just mourning the fact that me and Will were not going to be together. During this very low time, I ended up sleeping with someone that I met on an app. He was a total stranger, and honestly, he gave off very bad vibes, and he is in prison now. And at the time, I really felt like I didn't care if he unalived me or not. That's how dark of a place that I was in at this time. So I ended up reaching out to my second year revival group pastor. I had not met her yet, but I wanted to confess what I had done because I felt so horrible, and I knew that maybe she would kick me out of school, but I wanted to be honest with her. As I am confessing and telling her that I am in a very, very dark place, she told me to stop and told me that I was crying to try to manipulate her and to make her feel bad for me, and she did not feel bad for me. And then I almost got kicked out of second year. I was able to stay in second year, but I had to pay for a moral revolution purity course where I had to do a small group with women about purity and stuff like that. And then for the rest of the year, this revival group pastor, Amanda, was very much on me. Somebody had asked me on a date, and I dated him for maybe 3 or 4 months. We were never officially together. We would just go out on dates and we were courting or whatever. And she would corner me at church, pull me aside and act like we were friends, and was like, "Oh my gosh, so I heard you went on a date." And she was like, "Has he touched your boobs?" So she was on me, asking me these questions about my purity all year, and I definitely felt like I was marked with the letter A. Now that we are all caught up, me and my situationship Will from first year, we remained friends, and we would hang out in groups and stuff like that. And I did tell him what I had done over the summer, and he was wonderful, told me that he didn't see me any differently, and yeah, we just remained close throughout the entire year. But our friendship definitely started to turn into something more towards the end of second year. We ended up hanging out all the time, like day to night, and we ended up kissing and stuff. We never slept together. It was never anything like that, but Bethel made it seem like it was so horrible. And we were still trying to figure out these logistical things. Like, we would talk until like 5 in the morning about like, is there any solution to this or anything? And yeah, it was just kind of this sad back and forth type of thing. But we did end up fooling around, and Will felt very, very bad about it. I felt bad about it too, but I did not feel the need to go and confess to the revival group pastor, but he felt like he needed to tell her. He felt like it was weighing very heavily on him, and he felt like we needed to go tell Amanda. Now, I did not want to tell Amanda because Amanda hated me, you know, and I had a lot of trauma from her from the beginning of the year, and I just really did not want to tell her. And I was crying to him and saying, is it not enough that we just apologize to God and we like don't do this anymore? And he was adamant that he wanted to tell Amanda. So it was a week before graduation, and I was trying to tell him, like, can we just not, I mean, I'm gonna graduate in a week, and I'm already feeling like if I do my third year, I'm gonna do it abroad, because for the internship, you could go and do it with an affiliated person. You didn't have to stay in Redding. I'm like, can we please just leave it, because I'm only here for another week, and I don't want them to not let me graduate. So we were sitting outside of his apartment complex. So the complex is here, and we are sitting in the parking lot on the floor next to his car. And I think it was about midnight, so we thought that everybody's asleep. We were not being loud, like we were talking like this. And I'm just telling him, please don't, and he's saying that he really wants to, and I ended up like having a panic attack and crying, and I was like hiccup crying and saying like, I know I'm a whore, I know I'm a whore, I know I'm a whore, and I just like kept saying it over and over again because I was so traumatized by purity culture, and I genuinely thought that I was an awful damaged person, and it was truly one of the lowest moments of my life. And Will was nice, and he comforted me, and he agreed that we would just leave it and that we probably would not tell her, but we would talk about it again tomorrow. So I go home thinking, okay, well, hopefully we're just not going to tell her what we did. And the next morning I get a call from Will, and he had some horrible news. The next day, a student had knocked on Will's door, and they were a third-year student. It was someone that Will had never met. He knocked on the door and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that last night I had my window open and I heard you and that girl and I listened to your entire conversation. And if you do not go tell your revival group pastor what you did, I'm going to go tell her." Follow for the next part.